Now we'll move on to the sessions for the two guys who are sort of behind the scene, but their work is something that is very, very important to what Samir builds. And also, Balaji comes first on the analytics piece, and then followed by Avinash. Thank you.
So earlier today, as I was getting ready to get to the event at home, I was up and about early and suiting up, and my daughter, normally she gets out earlier than me, but today I was getting out earlier. She asked me, hey, where are you headed? What's up? I said, I'm going to an analyst day. My daughter knows I'm an analyst. She asked me, what do you do in this analyst day? Then I explained to her there are two kinds of analysts. I analyze lots of data of my bank to help my bank, and there are other analysts who analyze lots of banks. Oh, she said, okay, I wish you all the best. Good morning, everyone. I'm Balaji. I take care of data analytics for the bank. Data and tech has grown to be a big passion of mine over the years. In the next 15 minutes or so, see the counter up, next 15 minutes or so, I will show to you how data is enabling the GBS and digital transformation that Amitabh and Samir before me spoke about. I will show that through data, because I'm a data guy, and I'll show that through delivered projects, how we are doing. Let's jump in. Analytics is deeply embedded at Axis Bank. We, over a period of times, we now have vertically aligned teams working with each business department, and most business departments of the bank started with credit card lendings, but now wholesale banking products, wholesale banking, corporate center. There are teams that work closely with each of these businesses. And in terms of the use cases, there's a diversity of use cases, started largely with risk management, and has over a period of time grown to customer experience, operational excellence, product pricing, where to put branches, where not to put, where to put ATMs, take it out, all of that good stuff. We use data extensively to make those decisions. And it's not just about using it. Over a period of time, we have delivered significant business impact. There was a question around how some of these is driving business impact. The majority of our personal loans, for instance, come from database programs. And the bigger chunk of the business, credit card business, comes from it. And in credit card business, 1/3 of the growth of any credit card book typically comes from existing customers through line increases and stuff like that. That 1/3 stuff is actually entirely data-driven. These are some metrics. I won't read out every one of them. The other one I will talk about is the one in the middle. The other thing we do, we believe we do much better than others, is the use of proprietary scorecards in lending. We started that journey much earlier than most others, and we have second and third generation scorecards running on risk in almost all the areas, and there is hard data that shows that these are significantly better than the generic bureau scores that otherwise you might have to use. While we do many use cases, today I want to talk about two of them. Personalization, we will keep emphasizing that. You will see that throughout the day. And universal underwriting, how do we enable universal underwriting through alternate, and the three blocks below that are capabilities that help us drive it, but I will focus on the two key business imperatives that we are driving through data and show some examples of how we are doing that. Okay, let's listen to the video. Okay, so see, a lot of people talk about personalization, but we have really invested a lot in this space. We have gone ahead and talked to global leaders in the space, people like Starbucks, M-Bank from Poland, Amazon, ex-Amazon colleagues who have done this, worked with external consultants, and we are really interested deeply. We believe personalization is driven through data. There are 6 key pillars that we have invested in to create this capability. Data is the first and key pillar. You have to start with to personalize, you have to start with the customer. We showed you some of the offers, and to do that, you need to know what the customer has spent on before. If you have the data, which merchant he has spent on it, which category he has spent on it, and know that at the customer level, the segment of one. And again, all these features, it's not like we go ahead and go and scrape around on the mobile phone or stuff like that, right? These are all legitimately, we're a regulated entity, these are all legitimately acquired data, either from bureaus or our KYC and transactions done by the customer. Nudge, so when we say Nudge library, and we showed some examples of that, it's not just a credit card offer. If it's about spend, it's about which merchant, which category, is it a cashback, or is it a voucher, or is it a discount? We study all of that. We also we can also personalize at the level of the salutation, whether you use a formal one or whether use an informal one. The messaging, what you emphasize, different elements, is it the value, is it the fear of peer grouping, and various elements are emphasized. That's how, so we believe Nudge is not a simple thing. It's actually a programming code. It's implemented in our data lake as a tensor with 12 different dimensions, and for each dimension, there are different values. And that's how we manifest the nudge at the customer level. There is a prioritization engine. Of course, you have to orchestrate it at the customer level. It's not that easy to do it when you have close to 40 million customers and so many of these nudges. Fourth, MarTech stack is about how do you deliver it, and you have to deliver it in a very orchestrated manner across all the channels. That's not straightforward. The integration for that. The fifth one is control tower. This is something that many people miss. Oftentimes people jump into campaigns, but measurement at a very granular level of how each of those offers have done, whether it has been taken up, clicked, whether it delivered value for the bank, and feeding that in is super duper important, and that's not something that's easy and everybody does. And the operating model, ultimately it boils down to people and culture of people working together in a business area to deliver that. All of these have to come together to deliver it. We'll move ahead. So this is an example. The main thing I'd point out is Samir mentioned this on the right-hand side. I'll point your attention to the right-hand side of the chart, which is the same one that Samir talked about. This is the mobile app. We call it the recommended for you section. That is powered by the nudge setup that I just talked about. It is served, so on the left-hand side, there's a lot of work that happens at the customer level before this comes up on the mobile app, and we use cloud-native services to do that. And someone talked about security. See, all of these, when we put data on cloud, we have an encryption approach that we have developed. It's all encrypted through cloud, HSM, data in transit, data at rest. These are all like actual hardware devices that are sitting in the AWS Cloud Center, FIPS 142 certified. Now, it's not to say nothing will ever happen, but these are acknowledged best standards of protecting data in the cloud. So I want to move from the second part, the next 5 more minutes, spend on the second part of what we want to emphasize, which is universal underwriting. So our vision for universal underwriting, the population of India, starting with the population of India, take out the the non-adult population, what is the adult population, what is the bankable population? 80 crores, 83 crores have bank accounts now in the country. Within that, again, further we apply a more lendable age group, not the super seniors. And when we do that, we get 76 crores. And when you look at what is there right now in Bureau that they have taken loans, about 50 crores are there in Bureau. Again, not all of them are active. These are all the unique customers that the Bureau has a record of. Now, our vision is this box here, 76 crores. Every eligible Indian should have an offer. Now, how we do that? through alternate data is really what I want to talk about in the next few minutes. Right now, where we are at is 5.5 crore customers plus non-customers. We'll talk about what I mean by non-customer offers. That was last year, and this year we are close to double of that, and our vision is to double that every year. And how we will do that? This is a small video again in the interest. Okay, we'll have time. Phil? So KTB is just a terminology we use internally to refer to, they are non-customers at this point in time, but they are known to the bank because of specific reasons, largely through partnerships. I want to talk about, in the interest of time, move ahead and talk about like some examples, right? These are all real delivered running stuff, not like conceptual slides. So this is an example of a partner, and we do that, if you see at the bottom, across multiple partners. Now we have done it across many partners. It's not something that we have done it once. So typical partnership, we go sit with the partner. There is a data room exercise that is done. We put the partner data and our data together. The idea is to leverage the partner data to identify who are the good customers to whom we can send our offers. And if you see the bottom, these are all real charts from one of our partnerships. We build the score without any data before we start the business, and these are the numbers, actual numbers we get on the x-axis. You have the score bins, and these are the credit risk outcomes. We see excellent credit risk outcomes by those scores that we expected, what we thought. 18 to 20 is the best score bin, which is where we would expect to see the best risk. We actually see that much lower, 1/4 lower than what it is on the left-hand side. And then approval rates on the right-hand side. So basis those same score bins, we are able to deliver better approval rates. This is something the partners look at closely. So these models run in their data center every month, and they use this to activate the customers and send them our way. And remember, every partner has different kinds of data. So understanding, for example, some of the retailers, what we find is the kind of payment instruments they have loaded in the retailer slopes risk. How long they have been with the retailer slopes risk. If you are an e-commerce company, whether you are using cash or not, cash on delivery, whether you are returning too much. A lot of these interesting variables. If it is a telco, we find a lot of interesting variables, very rich data in terms of what can split risk, prepaid, postpaid, how much of data you use, 4G versus non-4G, whether you call people within your home circle or whether you're calling some random people not in your I mean, all of that. There is a lot of potential in this space, and it's a tough one to do. That's the thing we want to emphasize, and we do that on a regular basis. This is last but one example. This is a slightly different one in terms of Bharat Bank. This is satellite. So rural lending is a very tough space from a data standpoint, and you can talk to any bank and they will tell you it's not that easy to split risk amongst farmers and rural lending products. One of the things we have done is actually gone ahead, looked at alternate data, which is satellite imagery-based farmland features. So every loan application bases the survey number of the farmer's land, the village ID, or the PIN code. We go and ping a data provider for farmland features, convert that into very specific features that are embedded into our score. And this chart is a real risk sloping chart of how that score, the worst score on the left-hand side and the best score on the right-hand side, slopes risk. That's an example of how we have done it. Telco score. So I'll go ahead, my time's up. So last one, and then I'll hand it over to my colleague Avinash to talk about how tech is driving the transformation. So this is, I talked about risk models. We build all kinds of models. We talked about personalization, we talked about risk models. This is an income estimation model. Again, you can talk to any data science colleague of yours. Income models are notoriously difficult to build. Income models are very difficult to build. So we are in the third generation of our income estimation model. This is a second gen model. It uses different kinds of legitimately acquired data from the customer, our own data, from the bureau, from the partner. We put it together, run it in real time to estimate the income of the customer. What it helps us is, particularly as we go to partnerships and NTB, troubling the customer for income document, we can do less of that. That helps us do much more business, and these are real numbers from our partnership example. And as more data becomes available, Amitabh talked about, and Samir talked about account aggregator, banking statement data is available, GST will become available. So what we believe is two things. Partnerships, we'll have a session on partnerships. That data is not going to be available to everybody. It'll only be available to people who are able to build partnerships. That will be a big advantage. The second thing, things like bank statements, you have a savings account, all of that stuff is going to get commoditized, right? Through account aggregator. SBI's banking statement data is going to be available to anybody. So there, in that second bucket, it is going to be about, there's going to be a tsunami of data, public data available, legitimately given by the customer. How do you convert that data into sense and value? So those are the two things, in a nutshell, that we have done well in the past, and we believe we will deliver that for the bank. With that, I'll wrap up and pass it over to my colleague from the tech team. Thank you.
Very good morning to all. My name is Avinash, and I sort of manage the tech function for the bank. And over the next 10-15 minutes or so, what I will try to do is, take all of you through what is it that we, tend to do under the hood. So, folks, over the last few years, and Samir spoke about it, Balaji spoke about it, Amitabh sort of laid the foundation to the same. Over the last 2 years, what we have been doing over here is, we have been razor sharp focused in terms of, completely re-looking at the entire architecture in terms of, what does it take to sort of compete in the digital age. And as we went about this, and the next few slides will essentially talk to this particular theme, as you can see, what we have also done is that, okay, we have invested heavily in technology. Our budgets have actually grown. The number of people who have been working in core technology domain has also grown. So the budget has grown 2.5x. If you look at the headcounts, they have essentially gone up by 75% over the last 2 years. And what does it all mean? We have spoken about a bunch of engagement stuff which is essentially happening for the customers, and we have spoken about a whole bunch of things which is essentially happening from a data standpoint. But if you look at the translation of it all, what it means is the fact that there has been relentless focus in terms of, what we are trying to do from an architecture standpoint. Be it the first bank in terms of, completely hollowing out the core from a UPI perspective, because UPI transactions are the one, which typically, in any reference to UPI, you will essentially find that, okay, core banking becomes, the legitimate blocker in terms of, further growth. We were the first, and to my belief, we are still the only bank which has actually managed to sort of, pull out the complete UPI transactions from the core itself. Some numbers over here, I won't spend time on that. Moving ahead. To enable this digital journey, the most important thing on this one is focusing on capabilities, which my colleagues have spoken about. And the other element of this is in terms of building an infrastructure, which is resilient. And when we speak about resiliency, we basically are including both cyber, infrastructure, standardization, and all of that in this particular mix, right? So the areas where different teams within the tech functions have been sort of, working under the hood is what you are actually seeing over here on your screen. And if I were to give you a bit of a demonstration in terms of, from an architecture standpoint, where are we today, from where we used to be, say, a couple of years back, okay? Although the journey probably started about 3.5, 4 years ago, is that we have today achieved a modular architecture, a multi-tier modular architecture. The traditional banks generally have, the front end, business logic, everything sort of linked to the system of records. Slightly more progressive banks have managed to sort of break it down into, system of records to a mid-level integration. Some of them have also sort of, taken it to a level of engagement. What we have tried to do over here is we have tried to even decouple the business logic layer itself. The idea is that going forward, if we want to make any changes, the impact on the core systems has to be absolutely minimal, minuscule. So when we speak about CI/CD deployments, when we essentially speak about personalization, etc., the reason all of that is possible is because of some of this work which has been essentially happening under the hood. A very simple example: SMSs predominantly have been sent from core banking, obviously because all of our accounts are over there. Today we have tried to decouple the same. Okay, a lot of the SMSs are now sent from a communication hub. We are trying to sort of pull out everything which is there in the core. The idea here is that, okay, system of records is going to be purely acting as an inventory in terms of, the life cycle of the accounts. My colleague spoke on this. This is what it sort of breaks down to. The top level is where, the entire revamp journey essentially sort of happens. The mid level is where we end up on the technology side having the largest deployment of, say, Golden Gate in the country, which basically pulls data real time, makes it available for personalization efforts. When somebody is essentially going, when you open your mobile app, the alerts which essentially comes through, or some of the alerts which actually happens to be, time sensitive. I mean, it essentially happens because of, these kind of efforts which have essentially sort of gone behind. What we have also done is invested a lot on the integration layer. Let me draw your attention to the last block over here. I mean, we have the largest deployment of the gateway from our API perspective in the country. And this is both in terms of the number of APIs that we have sort of made it available, and also in terms of scale. And there are two angles to it. There is an internal side, which is the enterprise service bus, one single entity which basically propagates all APIs internally for anything to connect. My colleagues will speak about Siddhi, my colleagues will speak about some stuff which is essentially happening on Sparsh, completely supported by the enterprise service bus. When we speak about partnerships, when we speak about what you see on the customer facing side, completely supported by APIs. And this is the kind of stuff which potentially does not get spoken about enough, but this is where the regulatory world is very much interested in. Okay, I mean, the regulatory world does not speak about so much about the other areas. They are more interested in terms of the resiliency of the core systems. Okay, and as you can see in all of these, there is an effort which is essentially happening. There is not one area where we are not looking in terms of sort of improving in terms of scale, improving in terms of modernizing, and also in the process trying to hollow it out. There was a question on, cyber and resiliency. Like I said, I mean, for us, both of this goes sort of hand in hand. At Axis, we follow an N+N principle for virtually everything that we have. We have 2 data centers, Mumbai, Bangalore. We have a near data center as an investment. We also have now investments in cloud. If you take any bandwidth that we provide to the branches, or for that matter, the internet links that we essentially have, minimum N+N, okay, at least 2 of them. Data centers, in few of the places, we essentially have got almost 4 links, multiple levels of redundancies, given the sheer amount of traffic that we are sort of supporting. We have 24/7 teams which sort of, completely manage the same. There is a massive effort in terms of standardizing this. While we are taking workloads to the cloud, there are certain workloads which at this particular point of time is so huge, or built in certain technologies which at this point of time the cloud vendors are some distance away in terms of taking. Examples that you tend to see or read about in terms of people who have taken their core banking to the cloud, I mean, they are very, very small players. None of the large banks have managed to achieve it. And the way we are trying to do that is by sort of hollowing it out. Which brings us to the fact that we were amongst the first to identify cloud as a great opportunity in terms of focusing in terms of our core competence. Okay. And as we speak to you, we are the only bank in the country with 3 landing zones across the 3 largest cloud players, be it GCP, AWS, or Azure. We have significant amount of workloads which is there on cloud and which sort of propels a lot of the CI, CD, DevSecOps, etc. that we have sort of spoken to you about. Let me not speak about this, maybe in form of a testimony. What we will do is we'll actually have a partner give you a bit of an insight in terms of, what have we done.
Hello everyone, my name is Puneet Chandok and I lead the AWS business in India and South Asia. First off, I'd like to thank Axis Bank for the opportunity to be part of the Analyst Day today. I'll structure this in 2 parts, our journey so far with Axis Bank and looking ahead towards the opportunities in front of us. Axis Bank has been a leader in the banking domain and there are several industry-first initiatives to its credit. A few of these include setting up a dedicated cloud center of excellence and building a workforce for the future with a focus of innovation and operational excellence. This has resulted in the bank being able to quickly deploy marquee workloads such as loan origination, digital onboarding, digital lending, payments, and WhatsApp banking on AWS. By setting up a best-in-class cloud foundation, the bank has been able to deploy over 55 applications on AWS Cloud. Axis Bank Leap platform, which is a microservices-based architecture built on the AWS native stack for digital CASA account opening. The Leap platform supports up to 24% of all retail savings accounts. The bank adopted a cloud-first strategy and signed a multi-year agreement with AWS in December 2020 to accelerate its digital transformation with a bold aim, a really bold aim, to migrate 70% of their workloads to cloud in the next 2 years. Axis Bank has doubled down on their cloud strategy with an organization-wide focus on modernizing their applications. Apart from application modernization, the cloud COE team at Axis Bank has built automations and SOPs, helping the bank reduce its infrastructure provisioning TAT by 90%. And the bank has been recognized by the industry for its digitization efforts. One such recognition was the Asia's Best in Infrastructure Modernization for Jarvis, Axis's digital lending system, at the Financial Insights Innovation Awards in 2022. Congratulations to the bank. The bank's laser-sharp focus on hiring and upskilling their teams has helped them accelerate their cloud journey. Together with AWS, Axis Bank ran an organization-wide initiative called Bankathon, another one called Datathon, and deep dives immersion days on multiple emerging technologies. These initiatives have helped the participants come up with several path-breaking solutions to delight their customers and drive innovation at scale at the bank. Now moving towards looking ahead. Today, we are working with Axis Bank on a number of transformational initiatives for several business-critical applications in the space of payments, customer relationship management, corporate banking, customer servicing, and core banking. We are thrilled with the collaboration with Axis Bank, and we should soon be able to announce some more industry-first marquee workloads on AWS. Thank you. Have a great day.
Let me wrap it up by essentially saying that the distinctiveness which Axis Bank is trying to bring over here is not something which has essentially happened over the last 6 months. I mean, as you have seen, some of these from an architectural standpoint were decisions which were taken a good 2.5 years ago. We believe that, okay, we are in a particular journey where we are slightly ahead of the curve. Somebody had asked a question on cyber. Well, we have scores of 98% when it comes to CSI. But it's an area where, frankly, it's probably, second nature to the CIO, CTO communities to sort of, keep losing sleep around. I mean, this is an area where we believe that, okay, we have to constantly prep, we have to constantly try to do better. So are we doing what it takes? We believe so. Do we think it is enough? Absolutely not. We will continue to sort of invest in, some of these kind of areas, be it in terms of resiliency or in terms of cyber. So essentially, folks, that's what I had. Thank you, and it's been wonderful to be here.
Yeah, thanks, Avinash. Thanks, Balaji.